each site that we go to or find is kind of like a puzzle piece that helps reveal a much larger story than I ever would have expected. And this mega site was one of the bigger pieces that showed me more was going on than I realized. I was absolutely amazed by the size of this ancient ruin complex and how many rocks were strewn and scattered all over the place. This isn't the only one either. There are actually a bunch of these giant pueblo villages which have been totally abandoned. I can't help but wonder what happened to these people referred to as the Sinawa, and why did they leave? It's one of the biggest mysteries in the archaeological history of this area. There are a lot of different theories and debate, though some Hopi clans claim that the Sinawa were their ancestors and that they essentially just migrated away. But I still have to wonder, why? This is one of the most beautiful places in the whole world, and there's plenty of clean spring water for drinking and farming, and other abundant resources as well. I know looks can be deceiving, but I wonder what this place originally looked like. Similar to one of the sites we went to on a previous episode, I couldn't help but get the feeling that maybe part of this ruin was a giant mound structure. You don't really hear about mounded structures up in this area very much, but some of our other discoveries, which we haven't shared yet, make me think that mounds may have actually been more common around here than I would have thought before. On this adventure, I'm joined again by my friend James at Syfe Films. This site is known by some of the locals who live nearby, though once again, I didn't know about it until I found it on Google Earth somewhat recently, despite hanging out in this area a lot when I was younger due to my friend living close nearby. It's amazing to me how much is out there which is sort of hidden in plain sight.
Wow, this is pretty crazy actually. I did not expect this to look like this. It's just like rocks everywhere.
It's wild to imagine that someone actually constructed this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that...
Absolutely. Like, I was really kind of blown away by what we just walked through. Like, that's kind of reminds me of the site that I went to with Daniel last week, and that site reminded me of Tuzigoot, which some people believe is a pyramid. And we're not too far from Mexico. You were just talking about the pyramids down there. There could definitely be some kind of connection. It's a huge, huge pile of rocks. Like, imagine what this might have looked like before it was all collapsed. Like, could this have even been like a small pyramid? I have to wonder. And some people, like there's this famous archaeologist, he says that mounds of rocks he believes are pyramids. So even if it wasn't shaped in like a pyramid, like the typical kind you would expect, this could actually be like technically a mound, like a pyramid. And this is massive. I mean, it's probably at least like 20 feet up to the top. And it's just rocks like everywhere. Okay, we're up at the top of this structure now.
This large Pueblo village was built on a foothill. Nearby and above the creek which flows through a small valley. There were many such large pueblos and villages constructed in the Verde Valley. The native people built their pueblos on hilltops and benches above the farmlands where they could watch over their crops. Having reliable, clean drinking water was of paramount importance, especially by having the source close to home. Flowing creek water was nearby and readily available for domestic human needs, as well as for farming, which was also a matter of survival for a thriving Sonowa village. There appears to be an additional water source flanking one side and downhill of the village, in the form of a few small pools of spring water flowing through the surface features of a mostly dry wash. This may have been a major benefit to the tribe and much closer than the creek. What were the social structures like in this large Puebloan community? Did the residents get along well together? And how did they manage quarrels and conflicts living so close together? The tribal leaders and shamans probably helped to keep the people united. They had to work together for the common cause to protect the community's interest. More often than not, a large Pueblo village had satellites of small single or multi-room structures in surrounding spaces that were close in proximity to the main structure. As populations expanded, more rooms had to be built and more crops had to be planted and harvested. There were also courtyards positioned in and around clusters of rooms that were included during the expansion process, probably to serve as open community spaces. In some cases, multi-story structures were built to accommodate population growth, and in later phases of occupation, defensive measures were undertaken by design to help ensure the safety of the residents from hostile incursions. Did the residents feel safe, or did they live in fear of having their food stolen and becoming victims of violent attacks? Most of the large Pueblo villages were built during the Sonowa Classic phase, from 11 to 1300 AD. This was also the time when farming was at its peak, which allowed for cultural expansion that was tied to a significant dependence on crop production. The most severe drought in earlier times that we know of lasted 50 years and happened from 1130 to 1180 AD. Then there was another severe drought from 1276 to 1299 AD, lasting for 23 years, called the Great Drought. Dry farming was probably largely devastated during these events, whereas irrigation farming may have saved the masses dependent on farming in the Verde Valley. Do you think that this and other previous droughts were one of the catalysts to the Great Abandonment, which took place around 1200 to 1300 AD in the American Southwest? This is still an unsolved mystery. Some archaeologists now think that there may have been numerous causes that all came together around the same time, such as increased mortality from infectious diseases in the more populated places, climate and environmental changes that affected agricultural harvest. For example, over-salinization of waterlogged, irrigated fields, which they know was occurring at Montezuma's well. There may have also been a disruption of Mesoamerican trade relations at a time when there was already stress from overpopulation. In addition to all these things, there were mass migrations at around 1400 AD to the Hopi Mesas in the northwestern Arizona and Zuni region in western New Mexico. It is speculated that these migrations might have been for the purpose of starting over by going through a process of spiritual realignment and enlightenment.
When we were looking around, we found a number of more modern graves, which was a bit surprising to me and something I'm not used to seeing at archaeological sites like this. A couple of the graves are actually pretty old and belong to some historically significant and interesting people. We plan on making another video to talk more about them in the near future.
I know it's no consolation, but the longer I live and the more that I learn, the more I think that there is no real death, and this is all kind of an illusion, like a simulation or something. That in our dreams, like, we can still communicate with everyone, and like everything is there in the spirit world. Wow, I can just imagine the natives in here swimming and cleaning themselves. Wow, that's super pretty. Watch us stumble onto some lost, hidden Tartarian. Yeah. Indeed. Have you heard of the Tartarian thing?
No.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Like Clopian?
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of it. Well, this really helps explain why that big ruin was right up there. They had water right here. It's probably good enough to drink. Yeah. Dope, dude. Super cool. Whoa. Another really cool root system. Yeah, this water is very clear here.
My mom somewhat often reminds me of something I said when I was a little kid, which she thought was interesting. When I was little, I said, "Where does time go?" Now, more than ever, I think about that, and I wish I knew. These adventures highlight to me that our lives are kind of just like a little speck in the timeline. So many have came before us, and so many will come after us.
It's a beautiful day. Might as well laugh and play and enjoy one another's company. Happy trails until we meet again.